all right. Settle down. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, happy middle of the night, whatever time it is, and to wherever you are listening, whatever you're listening on, Apple, YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, wherever you're at listening. Thank you so much. It's much appreciated. Welcome into another episode of the Young Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Jay. Super excited to be with you for another episode. Before we jump into it all today, or as we jump in today, I want to make sure that you guys do the thing that I've been hounding you to do for a while now. Make sure you to go down to that description, no matter where you're listening. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, Pocket Cast, wherever you're getting your podcast at. Go down, click the link, subscribe to the email newsletter. It comes out 2 times a week. You'll love it. I'll love it. And it's a great way to support the podcast. Easy way to support the podcast. Free way to support the podcast. I'm not going to sell you products if you don't want them, but that's an easy way to support the podcast. So we would 100% appreciate that if you did that. You guys are probably wondering who the heck's sitting across from me here, whose face is on the other side of the screen here. I have my man, Michael. Michael, you are... I don't know if it's a podcast yet, but you run daddegree.com. And so tell us just a little bit about what Dad Degree is, how it started, where it's going, and take us through that a little bit. So,
first of all, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. I started Dad Degree a few months ago, and it's kind of just getting off the ground. And it's really just a platform for parents and individuals that are looking for either guidance or a community where they feel a belonging, and just well-being, kind of place where you can share your thoughts, get inspiration, and kind of go from there. It's I'm trying to do a little bit of everything right now on Dad Degree, with seeing where it can actually go, whether it's fitness and health or financial well-being for families, or just kind of general learning, share and kind of share the journey and process together, because nobody's parenting journey is alike. Everybody has a different outlook or a different way of handling situations.
very true. So what inspired you to start? And if the people are wondering, a few months, at the time of this recording, it is March. So that means it started right around December 2023, January 2024, kind of for context for the people listening.
Yep.
What kind of has inspired all this for you to start now, to start on this path?
Really, I think it was a career move for myself. I haven't been necessarily in content creation before. It always seems interesting, and I feel that my experience, I have a little bit to share, and I'm learning every day. So I would like to help people avoid the mistakes that I've made, and really kind of help them, guide anybody that's willing to listen, and kind of go from there. Yeah, it's just it's an experience, a journey that I'd like to share with others, and hopefully I can help along the way.
Definitely. I think that's what a lot of what fatherhood is, being a parent, being a dad. A lot of it is just that it's a journey, it's a battle. There's a lot of things that come along the road. There's a lot that comes along the way. And it's hard to do it alone. It's hard to feel like you're doing it alone constantly and feel like there's no community, feel like there's no one else doing it with you, no one else doing the thing with you. So, yeah.
Agreed.
It can be a lonely path. It can definitely be a lonely path to walk. So, what has your fatherhood journey been like so far? How many kids do you have? What has been that journey for you? What kind of path have you walked so far?
So my wife and I, we have one little boy, in talks about trying for more. But we had a rough start with our little guy. He's really healthy now. He's almost 3, coming up in August. But in the beginning, it wasn't so easy, and that's why too another realization that I had where I know other parents could be in the same situation or even a different situation, but the same that we went through, and to help or lend a hand in any which way that I can. But when our little guy was born, he was on the smaller side. He was only 5 pounds 6 ounces. Um, it was an emergency C-section. My my wife actually wound up hemorrhaging in the hospital, which was extremely terrifying, and nobody sets you up or plans you for that. Going into it, you're just kind of excited, you're nervous, um, and I mean everything kind of flipped on its side. So got through that. Everything was all right. Just really kind of nerve wracking, scary. And in the beginning, I really didn't feel like a dad. I understood that obviously I had a child, I loved him, but it was such a change in my life. I was struggling to try and figure out, is this normal? Is this are these feelings normal? Does every dad go through this? And the real turning point where full blown dad mode kicked in was at 2 months after my son's birth. He was struggling eating and gaining weight. Um, and saw 3 or 4 different specialists, and nobody kind of knew what was going on. They just thought that was his run, his growth. Well, one of the specialists, so my wife went to see a cardiologist with him while I was at work, and she called me and she was in tears. We found out that my son had VSD, ventricle septal defect in his heart, and this was causing him pain. And basically, anytime he tried to eat, his heart would have to pump so hard that he would just stop eating because he was exhausted. Um, so he had a very large hole in his heart, and nobody heard the heart because the hole was so large. The surgeon actually explained it the best to us. He said, "Imagine driving your car on the expressway and cracking your window a tiny bit. That would be an example of a small hole, and it would create a whistle, and that's really easy to hear. But now, just say you're driving your car and you open it a little bit more, it doesn't make a high pitched whistle, and it just allows the blood from the high pressure valve to the low pressure to free flow, which would make no sound. And normally, a child with this defect would, and that size of a hole would, it would go unnoticed for years, and they would just struggle, and it would set them back in almost every which way. But at 2 months, he had open heart surgery, which was terrifying. And that's the exact moment where full blown death hit him. He was in the hospital for over a week, and he wound up hemorrhaging as well. So now we don't know if it's hereditary with my wife and him, but that was again, it just all of those emotions and feelings from when my wife did, and he at the time didn't even understand how I was feeling with it because I literally just saw it happen 2 months. It was terrifying. But doctors were great. Everybody was wonderful. He pulled through. It was a long recovery process, but he's doing fantastic now, and he's a little beast. He's obviously on the smaller side from his setback, but he's awesome. And I mean, it was that point in time with the change in not even feeling, but realization that wow, like I'm a dad now. So it was extremely tough to go through, but we're better for it now. And, it still chokes me up to this day. It's really been
Wow, man, that's a journey, and it's only been a few years. Um, you said rough start, and I think that undersold it there a little bit. Um, that's terrifying from the very beginning, and it's such an amazing thing that your son has recovered. He's a little beast now. If he's a little bit smaller, just mean those growth spurts when they hit, they're gonna hit hard.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
they're gonna hit real hard, and he's gonna go from one size one day to another size the next day to literally another size the next day.
yep,
So just be prepared for that. Those growth spurts are gonna hit. When they hit, they're gonna hit. But no, that's amazing that he's doing so well now. And just to kind of go back a little bit there, um, you mentioned that you don't really get prepared for the alternative things that could happen during childbirth. You don't really get prepared for anything that's not like a regular birth, like in the hospital, through the vaginal canal, through maybe with an epidural. Like that's really all you get prepared for, um, like mentally. You're not even. I'm trying to think back here. My kids are a little bit older now, not older, but a little bit um, older than yours. And I don't remember anyone ever talking to us about the other things that could happen. The other thing is like having a C-section, having an emergency C-section, um,
yeah,
hemorrhaging or anything like that. And I guess part of that goes. I would chalk that up to these medical professionals not wanting to scare new parents, kind of thing. When yes, that can be a scary thought to understand. It's really good information to have. It's
I
crucial
agree.
information. Like, you know, if you have to go down this route, this is what a C-section looks like, and here are the facts, here are the information, here's the pros, and here are a few of the cons. Um,
Yeah,
here are the if you have to have an emergency C-section, this is what it looks like. This is what this looks like. This is how long your baby may be in the NICU. These are some expected complications that are most common. Here are some more rare ones. You could hemorrhage. In case of hemorrhaging, this is what this is going to look like for you. This is how you're going to have to help her heal, and this is what you're going to have to do, Dad. And like just having all that information, I think would be so beneficial because that information is very important to have. Because if you don't know what to expect, it can be not can it does very easily become a traumatizing experience. It becomes a very scary experience, and it turns you away. You can very easily like turn away from you know having more children or trusting the medical system as a whole or trusting doctors, and it can cause a lot more damage than one would expect fully um, in that situation because you don't know what to expect unless you're expecting it.
yeah. Providing some context, I think can be helpful. I don't think it would be necessary to go into all of the details because it can be quite terrifying.
Mm,
I, I'm thankful for all the doctors and nurses and all the support they can everything extremely well. Very professional. They were very prepared. So I can't stress that enough. Which I think that is the focus is in that setting. There can be complications,
mm,
but everybody is prepared for them. There
absolutely.
can be a lot that goes one way or the other, but they have been trained and they are ready and willing to take any kind of um, mishap or wrong turn. So,
Absolutely. No, they 100% are. Um, I think just at least for me, like working in mental health, we do a lot of informing. There's a lot of informing. There's a lot of informed consent. There's a lot of things that go on. There's a lot of information that we share with clients and with families and with youth about, hey, this is what treatment, everything's going to look like. This is kind of exactly where you're at right now. So we share a lot of that information along the path. Um, so in my head, it makes sense. Like, give me more information. Let me know like
Hmm.
the broad spectrum of things that can happen. Um, what that kind of looks like, just to like, so it doesn't cause anything further um, down the road. So I know like, okay, overall, like I know I'm going to be in good hands. I know you guys are medically trained. I know you guys are trained for everything and anything that could happen in this scenario. You've done it 100 times over, kind of thing. Rest assured, but just having a little bit of information can definitely help. Um, and you mentioned that feeling of not feeling like a dad right away.
Yeah.
I think that's more common than a lot of dads think. Um, I've heard some dads uh, that I've talked to. It takes it can take even more than that. A couple months, like it did for you. It can take more. It can be right away in some cases. Sometimes it's like first kid was right away, or maybe it wasn't the first kid, but the second kid you felt it right away, or any mix of the combo. And it's hard for dads right off the bat to kind of bond and have that connection, because like, yes, we'll hold the baby for a minute, but then it's like, okay, give baby back to mom so mom can start feeding and doing all the things, and you're just kind of there the first bit while the
Yep.
baby's breastfeeding and whatnot. And yes, you're there to help support, change diapers, help her, support her in, being a mom. And there's a lot of awesome things that come with it, but it can be definitely really hard to connect with your kid from the very beginning, um, be as a dad. So I think that's very common, and sometimes it does take a while to bond, to have that moment of like, oh my gosh, I'm actually a dad, for it to come like into full realization mode, like, whoa, like I am this kid's dad, kind of thing. I would say that happened with my first. It was a little bit harder to bond at the very beginning. It didn't
Yeah.
feel bonded to her at the very beginning. Um, it probably wasn't more until she started like crawling and walking and babbling and things like that that I was able to connect with her. Then my second one, it was more that instant kind of connection and whatnot, where we felt it more so right away, and got to know each
Yeah.
other like very quickly and got very close very quickly. I think part of that was because her mom and I got divorced when she was, or separated when she was about 4 months old, 4 or 5 months old. So
Okay.
like I had no choice but to get close to her really quick. I think I was already close to her prior to that, just because like our marriage was already kind of going down at the time. So I was already just very involved, doing a lot of different things that I hadn't done the first time. I granted I was working a lot the first time, and um, so I wasn't home a whole lot. I was working like an overnight. I worked days and I worked overnight pretty quickly. So within the first year, I wasn't around her a lot, or as much
It's
as I wanted
difficult.
to be. So
Yeah, it's very difficult, especially when you don't really have control over it. You gotta provide for your family and do anything that you can and help in any which way that you can. I think, as you mentioned, it was maybe a little bit easier on the second go, with child number two, because I mean you really knew what to expect. You've been there before. You've been through those long nights, exhausting days, and yeah, that's why I decided also to just create Dad Degree, to really blog, write about it, help talking about things that people are nervous or scared to talk about because they don't know how to articulate any of it. There's brand new feelings. They they just kind of adapt and move along, and that's what we do in society nowadays. And I want to bring it up, conversations. Um, let's bring things to light. Let's help people.
Absolutely. And I think that's the biggest part of why I keep doing what I'm doing on this podcast. Is like, there's a lot of things we need to talk about. There's a lot of things we need to talk about that we're just not talking about, that we're afraid to talk about, honestly,
Yeah.
for fear of offending the other party, um, which is unfortunate because there's a lot that goes on in the parenthood and the fatherhood domain that isn't talked about, or is only talked about by one party more so, or more okay to talk about and have for one side of the party or one side of the coin versus the other side of the coin. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, a lot of that stems from society. Unfortunately, a lot of that stems from negatively incentivizing fatherless homes, negatively incentivizing, this. And there's good things with it, there's bad things with it. I've stated it before on the podcast, but where women support women and has gone pretty far out there, to an extent, saying, um, like, girl, if you're unhappy, just leave, just bounce, just go. Like, that little thing happened, oh, bounce, go, like, we got you, kind of thing. And um, like, the family's just very, like, the family unit, having a whole family unit, like a normal two-parent household, with a mom and a dad and kids and everything like that, is so, like, diminished, and it's like not the cool thing anymore. And it's unfortunate to see because, like, kids need both parents. Kids need the involvement of both parents. And then we look at the overall landscape of dads. There's a lot of dads who just aren't involved. There's a lot of dads who are afraid to be involved. There's a lot of dads who want to be involved but can't be involved due to family court systems, due to politics within the dynamic, due to um, you know being pushed away so hard and pushed away so far by either the child's mother, or because the mother has some feelings of resentment, or the mother just wants to prove a point, or um, they've been pushed and pushed and pushed away and denied so many times that they just give up. Uh, that they've just been beaten, they've just been, slogged down so many times, and they're just like, well, I tried. I just mentally can't keep doing it. I can't financially keep doing this. I can't physically keep doing this. I can't emotionally keep doing this. And it all is just, it can be such a draining process, um, for a lot of dads to try to be involved in their kid's life. It's not that they don't want to. Granted, there are some dads out there who don't want to, that don't try to, that don't meet their and don't meet their burden, even when it's set very low to meet. When the bar's set very low. But some dads that are doing great, that are going above and beyond, that are all over it and helping and supporting and just so great, don't get anything more for it. They don't get anything seen because they're afraid to go back to court. They're afraid to go try to get more and then lose what they already have. There's a lot of fear that goes along with it. It's something we don't talk about a lot. And not to mention, there's plenty other aspects of all this stuff. Um, Very obviously, your situation, your wife was the main focus. Of course, everything she went through, things she experienced, having the emergency C-section, hemorrhaging, things like that. Your son having open heart surgery 2 months later, things like that. but were you asked how you were doing by those doctors in those situations and how you were feeling, and they check on you and have an informed conversation about what postpartum, depression and anxiety and these different feelings look like for you, so that you could be aware of those for you. Uh, it's these things like that aren't talked about whatsoever. It sucks.
Yeah, that scenario is extremely difficult. In my personal scenario, I don't really think I was asked. Um, but I mean, I wasn't necessarily in the hot seat per se. While
That's
I
a good
was
way to
just
put
trying
it.
to
That's a good way to put it.
hold it together for everybody else. And society as a whole, I mean, that's the picture everything's painted about. Father holds it together, tries to do anything that they can, while maybe also being stepped on. But it's not every scenario that's the same. Everybody may have a different take on it, but my wife was extremely supportive through the entire fact. I mean, we've talked, and we're, we have a really strong,
Mm,
and I think everything that happened has even brought us closer together.
absolutely.
I'm extremely fortunate for. So I don't really have a take on the other side, more so than just trying to lend a hand any which way that I can from my own personal experience, because I do realize that there are other fathers in different scenarios and situations that are not as fortunate, that are clawing and fighting for anything, and it's just extremely difficult. So um yeah, just setting light on all aspects of fatherhood and parenthood alone, I think is really beneficial.
Most definitely. And I think that is a very great perspective, on your end to keep there, because experiences like this should truly bring us closer with our significant other. I truly believe that, because that's what the point of it is to go through difficult things together, come out on the other side of it together, and better than you were before. To support each other through it, to be there. We get married well, not the whole point why we get married in the first place, but that's a big part of it. Like,
Yeah,
it's not just to hang out and to have kids and to um, split bills and get some additional tax credits and things like that. And you know,
yeah,
it's truly for that companionship, for that to live life with someone, to experience happiness, joy, sadness, despair, and all the things up and down and in between. Um, and come out better every single time in the face of difficult situations, in the face of adversity, um, and to support each other through it. To give those different parts of yourself, that you can give, because it's not always, 50-50. Sometimes it's, 70-30. Sometimes it's, I got 40, I got 20. Okay, we got 60. Let's make a plan not to kill each other because we don't got the other 40 right now. Um, Kind of thing. Let's figure this out so
yeah,
that we can get through it, get through today and have that communication and whatnot. But it's a beautiful thing when you can come through these difficult things together on the other side.
yeah. I think a really good take on it is, like you just mentioned, it comes down and boils down to communication, and not only communication, positive communication. Um, you may not see what somebody else is going through, so being able to explain your take, your view, your side, no matter what it entails, and having the other individual listen to you, and actually hear you out and not just come to conclusions. I think that is huge in any relationship, and not only with a spouse or significant other, with your children. Really, once your children are grown and can pay attention and listen and verbally communicate, having those conversations and even tough conversations with your children, setting light on different scenarios will help create a stronger bond, for the entire family.
Most definitely.
I like to take, my wife and I take, which is, we're not big on baby talk. We like to speak to our son as a human being, and we address him with different scenarios and really try and if there's a fit or something like that, we try to sidebar him and remove him from the situation and really discuss what is going on. Obviously, does not work all the time, being a toddler, but we do our best to keep cool and really just create communication. I don't ever want a point in time for my son to feel that he cannot bring or talk to my wife or I about anything that is on his mind or that happened at school. Um, I never want that. That is, worst case scenario being a parent.
Definitely. No, and I think that's something that we don't talk about enough is communication in communicating with our kids, in talking to our kids. Where a lot of parents are, I don't want to say afraid from what I've experienced, but they lack the confidence and the willingness to have hard conversations with their kids. They lack the language to have those hard conversations, mostly because they were never shown or modeled the language for themselves to have the hard conversations by their parents. They weren't modeled the same thing. And when these things aren't modeled, well, when it's time for you to step up to the plate and do it, you don't know how to do it. You don't know where to start, kind of thing. And then it becomes avoidance. And then it becomes, well, I didn't get the information from mom and dad, so now I'm going to go to school and hopefully get the information there from one of my little friends, because that's going to be 100% accurate. Oh, my friends don't know. I guess I'm just going to go to Mr. Google and Google it because that's going to be accurate and safe. And now it leads me down this rabbit hole because I'm 13 years old and I know how to do YouTube and I know how to navigate it. And I just go down all these rabbit holes of false information and all these Google pages of false information. And now I think I know what sex is. Now I think I know that drugs are fine. Drugs are good. My friend offered me marijuana. Cool. Mom's never talked to me about it. Dad's never talked to me about the dangers of drugs or the benefits or the pros and cons of these things. So I guess, my friends are doing it, so it's probably fine, kind of thing. And I don't think I'll get in any trouble because we've never talked about it. So, or man, what's safe sex? I don't know. Oh shoot, you know, girl's pregnant kind of thing. Not saying that's going to be your son. I don't think that at all.
Yeah,
But that's what happened. It's common. It's commonplace. Or, oh man, we never talked about mental health with our kid. Now my kid's really struggling, and they're going through all these issues at school and bullying and stuff, and it's affecting them mentally, and they have no clue how to talk to it because they can't talk to you because they don't know how. You're not talking to them because, well, you just don't talk to them. They're going to school, and it's just keep repeating and getting worse and worse and worse. School counselors are way too busy and overwhelmed because they're trying to do 3 different jobs as one person, and then no one else believes them. Teacher doesn't believe them. Teacher doesn't care. Teacher's just trying to get by. And then next thing you know, you have a teenager that hopefully just ends up in the emergency room from an unsuccessful suicide attempt. These things happen and they snowball. I know all those situations sound extreme, but are they really that extreme if that's what happens time and time again?
yeah. I think, zooming out and looking at the larger picture, is always best, and it really stems from a young age. I believe. As you mentioned, parents nowadays, they're they're going off of what they know. Um, that's the best they can do. And nobody really, I mean, talks about how tough parenting can be. And you really have to commit and buckle down and embrace the suck sometimes. It's instead of just throwing your kid an iPhone or a tablet and letting them just sit on the couch because they're quiet, kind of removing them from electronics and really seeing what the world has to offer, I think is really good approach. When I was younger, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have computers. We were outside playing. We were riding our bikes. We were at the park. We were enjoying the sun. Um, we were learning to play catch and do physical aspects, motor skills, while computer screens and digital learning is valuable. Don't get me wrong. I think it's needed in today's day and age. Um, I don't think that's all that is needed.
Mm-hmm.
So, taking a look at the bigger picture and having a really good balance of communication and screen time and interacting with your kids, really having parents be present. Um, and by present, I don't mean you're sitting on the couch watching TV and your son is sitting next to you on a tablet. That's not being present.
Mm-hmm.
That's just being in the same general
Being in the same
area.
room.
Yeah, so our take on parenting for our little guy is just really being present, really trying to set time aside to spend with him, let him be silly and use his imagination and physically play. There's obviously going to be a time for screens, and yes, it does help him sit down, pay attention, and eat breakfast or dinner. Yes, we utilize tools, but that's not all that it is. Um, it's not in every minute of every second of every day approach to parenthood because then what does it actually leave you? I mean, at the end of the day, then your son or daughter does not learn your morals, your ethics, your take on life. They're learning their own take from some other individual that you might disagree with completely, and they might be learning from their friends at school or somebody else that isn't the approach that you would hope for them. I think social media too, in general, bringing up that conversation is it's good and bad. There are obviously people out there trying to do really good things, and it's great for that aspect because you can reach huge audience. Um, there's also the negative aspect of social media that should be addressed of bullying and the downfall of people seeing something online that it's not reality, and children don't know how to take that information in. Um, they feel bad about themselves or their physical appearance when I mean what they're seeing online is not reality.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important to, you said it, I had it in my head, and then it left my head. I started thinking about raking leaves for a second there. I don't know why. Um, but it's so important to be present. Oh, I remember the thought now. To give your kids experiences, because do you want? I think about it this way. Do you want your kids to look back and their memories be, oh well, my memories are just, you know, sitting on tablets, sitting on phones, sitting on couches, watching TV, hanging out at home. Do you want them to go to school and talk about that was what they did versus all the other kids saying, oh, well, we went to the park, we went to the splash pad, I played a sport, I did these things, and all these other things? Like, what set of memories do you want your kids to have? Do you want them to have the memories of the experience of being on phones and tablets and technology all day, or do you want them to have the memories of experiences, of
Yeah.
going to parks, going to activities, going to the library, picking out books, reading books together on a park bench, going to a splash pad, going to the farmer's market together to pick out apples because why not? Um, and or going to like the coffee shop together, and every time you got a coffee, you got them lollipops, and they remember that. Do you want to have memories that you can write a children's book about? Um, like for me, I write children's books about like the memories I have with like my kids that we've created. Um, and like these are the things. Do you want them to remember going to the pool and having an underwater tea party with you? Being silly. Do you want them to remember the experiences and like all these fun little silly things that you guys did together, or like little tiny traditions or anything like that? Because that's what they're gonna remember. Or do you want them to remember
Yeah.
sitting on a couch with you while you were on your phone and you guys just had the TV on in the background, and all they wanted to do was play and do things with you, and they didn't get to do that. And now they're grown up, they get older, now they resent you because you limited their experiences. You limited them from life. You didn't let them be who they wanted to be. You didn't express any interest in them, and now they're not interested in you. And now you're in a nursing home.
Yeah. I mean, that's said perfectly. It comes down to memories and experiences with your children. That is what they will remember. That's what I remember. Um, they're not going to remember the tablet 64 model that you purchased that was $400. That does not matter. Um, they'll get the next one the next year, and then they'll always want the newest one because that one's old. But they're our children are going to remember the trips to the beach, playing outside or sledding with mom and dad, or the silly little snowball fight that we had the first snowfall. Going to Disneyland, the family vacations, going to the park, just playing catch in the backyard after work every day for that one summer. Your children are going to remember. Um, that is what creates the bond between a parent and a child. The physical experiences that allows your children the the, the trust and the time to communicate with you and tell you what's going on in their lives. To basically let you in. I saw a great quote a few months back. It was, if you want your children present in their lives when they're older, you must be present now when they're younger. Um, it's so true, and I think one thing that unfortunately it's a downfall because I'm hyper aware of it, but I mean time goes in one direction, and you don't get that time back. And I mean kids grow up. So I mean even on the bad days, just take it in and smile because you're there with them. And I mean, you're not promised tomorrow. So I mean, take every single day as a blessing and for what it's worth, and spend time with your children. The biggest take about any of it.
I think another kind of quote, I don't know how real this is, but it makes sense to me. And other dads I've talked to, they said, yeah, it sounds about right. Um, 75% of the time that we're going to spend with our kids is going to be between 0 and 12. The next 15% is going to be 12 to 18. That last 10% is going to be 18 years old to the day that you pass away, or the day that they pass on. Um, Time is love. Time is absolutely love. Time is absolutely the most precious gift that you can give your kid. Present, time, love, engagement, experiences, memory, conversation. Um, those are the best gifts that your kid could ever ask for. Of course, they're gonna ask for the doll. They're gonna ask for the tablet. They're gonna ask for the material thing. They're gonna ask for that. It's natural. They're never gonna ask you
Yeah,
for Well, they might actually, but the best gifts that you can give them that they will cherish more than those tablets that they're going to break or that are going to get lost or broken or stolen or left behind somewhere, and you're going to be pissed off because now you're out another $500 kind of thing when you should have just bought the $30 one in the first place because it works the same. And but you fell for the trap of consumerism. Um, what's the point in going through that constant runaround when you know all your kid wants is if they put their tablet down and they left it somewhere, that's probably a good thing because they were engaged in doing something else. You engage them in doing something else. You got them moving in the right direction. But again, the most precious gifts that you can give your kids are time. Time is love. Love is time. There's so many great little stories on Facebook and Instagram. One of my favorites is the little boy who asked his dad how much he made an hour. He would ask him over and over again, Dad, how much do you make an hour? How much do you make an hour? The dad finally broke, and the dad said, I make $25 an hour, kind of thing. Because the dad was a salaried job and everything, and he had to calculate it, and he did it for his son, and he told him, I make $25 an hour. Are you happy now? And the son was like, yes, thank you. The son goes to his room, grabs his little shoebox of his allowance and his money, counts up $25, goes back out to his dad, and says, Dad, I want to buy an hour of your time.
Yeah, that's extremely powerful.
So
seeing it in that light is, don't get me wrong, the material items are needed just for day in and day out life, but the real winner in any scenario is time and time spent with loved ones and sharing those moments with your children. I just saw a video clip the other day. It separated parents and children, and they did just really quick interviews asking them a couple questions. And all the parents were, if you had one person or two people that you can have dinner with, who would it be? And it was all these celebrities, inventors, and famous people. And they sat the children down of the same parents and asked them the same question. And a couple of the children asked if it had to be somebody famous or whatnot, and they said it could be anybody that you want. All of the children with their parents and their family, all they want to do is spend time with us. And I mean, that was moving to see and really realize it's an eye opener. Our kids don't know better. They don't know anything else. We are all that they have at this young stage of life. And if we're not there, they move on and they learn elsewhere. They grow up and then they do not want to be a part of what you've created, which is not a loving, caring bond that you guys shared at their young age. It's needed more than ever.
Absolutely, and it's especially today. Kids need their families. Kids need their support system. Kids need support. Our kids go through. We thought we went through a lot when we were in school. It's tenfold over and over and over again at this point today, to where kids are subject to their teachers' political views. Kids are subject to their teachers' views on gender and equity and inclusion and diversity and on race and critical race theory and books being taken out of the library one day that were in there the day before. And they're subject to just tons of bullying because there's still a lot of hate. Hate's taught. There's still a lot of hate that goes around in our schools because, again, the parents of the most hateful kids are probably some of the most hateful people. Hate's not a natural born talent. Hate is absolutely taught. They're learning it from their parents. The little Jimmy, that's an absolute delight. That's a reflection of home. Little Timmy, that's an absolute terror. Some of that's going to be a reflection of home. Some of that can be natural. Maybe there's a diagnosis or something that's not being treated, or something underlying there too. Um, but a kid that's just rude, mean, hateful, it's a reflection. These are reflections. And I hate to say it, if your kid's little Timmy, not little Jimmy, you have some reflecting to do. Time to do some reflecting. So
Yeah, it's I don't think we're at that point in parenthood yet to notice a lot between different children, but I completely agree. And it's not even to say that the parents are like that. The parents might not know better to how their actual parenting style may be causing it as well.
absolutely.
It could just be a form of the parents are extremely busy trying to just keep food on the table, and
Mm,
they're in a situation where they don't know better. They were not taught how to handle that situation, and the child might just be reaching out for attention at that point
mm,
and throwing fits or being a terror because they want to feel what the others are feeling, which is love and support and having those bonds and conversations, and it just might be lacking at nobody's fault.
mm,
In today's society, it's extremely difficult, and
yeah,
I mean, it's easy to point fingers. It's easy to come to conclusions, but you really have to hear people out. And
definitely.
with media and social media and political agendas, nobody does that anymore. And it just really is swept underneath the rug and we move on. And nothing is accomplished that way.
True. You're right. Context is important. Understanding the context, the dynamics of the family, the home, what's going on, and everything. Um, but again, there is still part of that is going to take a reflection and some positive changes to be made to help remedy that behavior, to help remedy what that kid's got going on at home, and um, you know, some reassessing that's going to happen. That's going to have to happen regardless. Yes, I agree. Things are incredibly tough. I've been single, raising two girls on my own for the last 2 years, 3 years. Um, at the time of this recording, and it's been challenging. It's been difficult just to keep, uh, you know, at times food on the table, clothes in the back, gas in the car, roof over their head. Had to make decisions, had to cut different areas, had to, afterpay some things that I'm not proud of afterpaying, and make those sacrifices and pay some few dollars in interest just to get what I needed now. And um, I mean, you have to do what you have to do, and you have to make those sacrifices where you have to sacrifice. Um, and at the end of the day, it's all worth it. All those sacrifices are worth it. All the job changes are worth it. The times where I was making less than I'm making now, and uh, finances were tight. Absolutely they were worth it, because I still got to spend that time with my girls. I still got to spend that time that I did get with them. I still got to coach teams. I've still gotten to coach, and be involved in extracurriculars and things like that. I'm so grateful for all those things. Um, but it takes sacrifice. It takes hard work and a lot of sacrifice, and a lot of work to get there. And I had to reassess a lot of things along the way to learn and to get there. Because that's what's important. That's what mattered. It was important for me to be an involved dad and to be there, and um, to be stepped up and be at the plate. So
Yeah, it really brings it full circle to nobody gears you or teaches you about how tough parenting can be. Your situation alone, you obviously can see the bigger picture, and you know that you want to be a present father for your girls, and you're doing what you need to, and you're doing anything that you can to make it work. There's other individuals that give up, and they to say, I'm talking out it's too tough. And as a parent, it's just not an option. You really can't, you can't give up. Um, Otherwise, I mean, you miss those memories, those years, that time spent with your children. Regardless of how tough the situation is, you got to keep pushing. And in in any scenario, yeah, I think changes could be made for the better for worse. As long as you put one foot in front of the other and just keep moving forward. Every day is a new day, and strive to be your best. It's really it's unfortunate that there are parents that do not want to be involved. I don't really know how to really comprehend that. To be honest,
Mm-hmm.
it's never been my mindset. I wasn't brought up that way. My wife wasn't brought up that way. We're very fortunate to not have been brought up that way. I understand that there are kids and parents now that were and are doing their best to not let that happen to their families that they've just created. So I think ending the cycle and really being a present parent is needed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we got to end the cycles for our kids, especially if we want them to to continue it on. They're going to continue on whatever we set forward for them. So if we set forward the right things for them, they're gonna continue the right things on. Um, let's wrap this thing up. Before we wrap up here, I just want to give a shout out to today's sponsor of the podcast, the June app. Drive positive behavior change with June. Is your child struggling with behavior, habit, or routines while at home or at school? Well, June might be worth a look. This new revolutionary app combines a video game that kids love with important tasks and habits that you want them to practice daily. Give the app a try for free. Yes, free 99, and use my code YNGDAD to earn 25% off of your subscription. See why almost 1 million families and over 1,000 therapists are recommending June, myself included in both those numbers. And visit JOONAPP.io/YOUNGDAD to learn more. And you can find that link, that code, down in the description of every episode or over on my link tree, which is linked again in the description of every episode. It's linked in Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble, Truth, Threads. It's linked in all the bios. So you can find it there. Never miss out on any of our deals, specials, promos, or partners of the Young Dad podcast that we have. So it's a mouthful at the end there, but tell us where we can find more of you. Tell us where the listeners can keep up and follow along.
Yeah, so the website is daddegree.com. Just how you would pronounce it, DADDE GREE. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I think he wants a YouTube page or a YouTube channel pretty soon as well. Yeah, I just thank you for having me. Hopefully at the end of this month, we'll be launching our health and fitness guide for fathers and parents. So, I mean, health and longevity is very important.
Absolutely.
I personally take health very seriously as well, physical and mental health. And I want to be able to run around in the backyard with my kids as they grow up. So, yeah, I thank you for having me, and I appreciate your time.
Likewise.